Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, today's episode, we are talking about the Chase credit card catalog, specifically all the upgrade and downgrade options you have within the catalog. So I will tell you all the rules and everything you need to know and pitfalls to avoid. And of course, we'll go family by family through the catalog, talking about all the options you have within each card family. So if that sounds interesting to you, of course, go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, of course, in typical fashion, I have full videos dedicated to upgrading and downgrading cards, also known as product changing, that I will link down below. Those are more very general videos, right? This is going to be specific for Chase. So the Cliff Notes version is that, let's say, for example, you have a card like the Sapphire Reserve, $550 annual fee. And, in year number 2, maybe you don't want to pay the $550, but you also don't want to cancel the card, right? So you have options. You could, change it, downgrade it to maybe a Sapphire Preferred, which is a cheaper option, or you could even potentially change it to a no annual fee option. So there are options like that all through the Chase lineup, and that's what we're going to cover today. So first, there are some rules we need to know before we start looking at the options. So on screen here you have it. These are some rules. First things first, you must have had the card open for 1 year. Now, this is largely due to the Credit Card Act. And basically that protects customers against card issuers charging a higher annual fee, within the first year of having a card. So you couldn't go Sapphire Preferred up to Sapphire Reserve, because that would be a $95 annual fee up to a $550 annual fee in the first year, and that would break the law. Now, technically the rule doesn't prevent you from downgrading a card within the first year. However, Chase and most issuers do not like you to change the card at all within the first year, because they say, hey, this can kind of be seen as gaming the system of sorts. Now, another rule here to be aware of is that you have to go from personal to personal or business to business. You cannot do, Chase Sapphire to Inc. Preferred, right? Because that just doesn't work. Technically, business and personal are kind of like two separate divisions of a bank, so they don't allow that. Now, in addition to that, you must stay within the family of cards. So, you couldn't change, an Inc. card to a Southwest card, right? Of course, we're going to cover that in more detail. Other things to know here, there is no sign-up bonus for upgrading or downgrading a card, because technically sign-up bonuses are for brand new accounts. So you're going to keep the same account number and everything. You're not opening a new account, you're just changing it, so there is no sign-up bonus. Now, with that, it's also important to note that, if you change to a card that, you don't already have or haven't gotten a sign-up bonus for yet, so maybe you have a Freedom Unlimited and you change it to a Freedom Flex, well, you're not going to be able to then turn around and apply for a Freedom Flex to get that bonus. So just kind of things to be aware of. And of course, I have a full video about the Chase rules down below that I can link as well. Now, when you do make the change, of course, your points don't disappear, right? Because you're keeping the card open and you're keeping it within the family. However, your points and your card will take on the new benefits of that new card. So if you had Sapphire Reserve, for example, that 1.5x you get through the travel portal would go away. You'd still keep your points on the Sapphire card, but if you change it to like a Sapphire Preferred, then that redemption through the portal will drop to 1.25 cents per point. And of course, last rule here is you can actually go back and upgrade a card again if you wanted to. So maybe you change it because you're not traveling as much. You get back to traveling the following year and say, I just want to upgrade the card again. They'll happily do that for you. Just charge you that annual fee. And of course, on annual fees, with these cards with annual fees, you need to catch it, within 30 days of the annual fee posting. So basically, if you had a card for 12 months, month 13, that annual fee is going to post. If you catch it within 30 days and, you phone in, ask them for the change, they will fully refund you that annual fee. Anywhere after the 30 days, you're probably looking at like a prorated amount, whether you use the card or not. I mean, it is important to note that, card issuers give you no heads up when it comes to the annual fee coming due. It simply will appear on your credit card statement. So anyways, those are all the rules you need to know. Now let's take a look at the families themselves and start out applying these to the Ultimate Reward Point earning cards from Chase. So here we have it. These are the Ultimate Reward personal cards from Chase. Now this one is a little bit confusing because technically they are two families. On the left-hand side, you have the Sapphire lineup. On the right-hand side, you have the Freedom lineup. So technically two different families. However, Chase is saying, well, you can move a Sapphire Reserve down to Sapphire Preferred and vice versa. There is also another no annual fee Sapphire card out there. It's not on Chase's website. It's a worthless card. Don't do it. That's why I'm not putting it on here. You should not get that card at all. Instead, what you should do if you did not want a Sapphire Reserve, you can move it over to a Freedom card, a Freedom Flex, a Freedom, or a Freedom Unlimited. And the same, vice versa. The Freedom cards can be upgraded to Sapphire cards, and the Freedom cards can move within themselves. This is something I've personally done, and I'll link a video down below for that. But basically, I had a Sapphire Reserve, and I didn't really want it anymore, for reasons I'll go through the other video, but I changed it to an OG Freedom card. And in fact, if you look at this, the OG Freedom card, which is the regular Freedom card, has since been retired. But if you end up changing, your Sapphire card, for example, to a Freedom card, that's why you can get the Freedom card. Still, of course, you won't get a sign-up bonus for it, but it doesn't matter because Freedom card is not available to new applicants, so there's no bonus to miss out on. Then you can have multiple Freedom cards, which can definitely come in handy, of course, if you want more on that video down below. But that is the Freedom line and the Sapphire line, basically because they both earn ultimate reward points. Chase allows you to move between them. Now, next up, we're going to go to the Ink lineup. So this is Chase's business lineup, and it's funny because yes, these cards do earn ultimate reward points, but because they're business cards, you can't move them to the Freedom or Sapphire cards. Now, you have the Business Premier, Preferred, Cash, and Unlimited. Again, these cards you can move up and down the lineup. The only caveat I'm putting here is the Ink Premier. At the time of taping, the Ink Premier has not been out for one full year yet, but it does earn ultimate reward points, although they're not ultimate reward points that can be like combined and transferred and things like that. But I'm going to assume you'll be able to product change the Ink Premier down to one of these other cards. I have the card, so I guess in 11 months we'll figure out if that is true or not. Now, next, we're going to talk about airline cards. So we have United cards. And again, we're following our same formula here. So on the left-hand side, you have your 4 personal United cards, which you can move up and down the lineup as you see fit. On the right-hand side, we have the United business cards. There are 2 of them. Of course, you can move up and down between those. But of course, you cannot cross the personal and business, just shown in the middle there. Now next we have the Southwest card. So there are 3 personal Southwest cards on the left, and the same exact rules from the United cards. You can move up and down between them. 2 Southwest business cards as well, same deal, up and down between them, but you cannot, change between personal and business. Now, next up, we have the Marriott cards. Now, with Marriott, there is no business option here. The business ones, I believe, are with American Express. You just have 2 personal Marriott cards, and then you can go up and down between the 2. You cannot hold both of them, though, which is an important thing to note. And then the same with the IHG cards as well. IHG has 2 personal and 1 business. You can hold 1 personal and business IHG, but you cannot hold both personal IHG cards. And again, there's more rules on this, or there's more explanation on these rules in the video down below about Chase rules. But same deal here. And if we look at the Hyatt cards next, now there's only 1 of each, right? So there's not really a downgrade or upgrade path for either of them, but just illustrating them for thoroughness' sake. Now we have some of the forgotten cards. We have Amazon. Now technically, most people are going to go with the Amazon Prime card, and there's no annual fee, but the annual fee is basically, your Amazon Prime membership. So if you were ever to stop paying your Prime membership, or, you just didn't want Prime anymore, you can still keep the card. It will just drop to the regular Amazon card, and I believe that drop will happen automatically as soon as you choose not to renew your Prime. And lastly, we have the Disney card. So if you're a fan of the House of Mouse, we have 2 versions here as well that you can go in between. There's no business cards on this side, of course. And then our last slide to take a look at here is there is no upgrade or downgrade path for these cards. So, again, technically we did talk about Hyatt, but we didn't mention some of these other airline cards and even the Starbucks card. So, these cards do have annual fees, but if you get the card, you cannot change it to anything. So if you didn't want to pay the annual fee, you're kind of stuck with the card as is. And so there you have it, guys. That is the full Chase lineup or Chase catalog as of mid-2022 and all the upgrade and downgrade options you have. So again, if you're thinking about it, I would just be careful of the rules and play your strategy, especially with the Sapphire cards. Again, it makes more sense to get multiple Freedom cards, especially if you don't like or if you don't mind the rotating quarterly categories. And with the other cards, I would really just be mindful of, skipping over certain bonuses, right? In a lot of aspects, if you go for one of the United cards, you can apply for the other United cards, right, and get those bonuses. However, if you take a look at the Southwest or the IHG, for example, you can really only have one of those cards. And once you pick one, you couldn't, apply for the next Southwest card, stack up the bonuses like that. So in that family, kind of makes more sense to product change than it does in other families. But overall, of course, let me know your thoughts on what product change, upgrade, or downgrade pass you've pulled off in the past in Chase and why. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. So if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. Of course, if you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, posting content just like this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. Again, my question for you guys is let me know what you think about this. What are some of your best upgrade or downgrade strategies that you use to move up and down through the Chase catalog? Love to get your thoughts on that. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.